Well, let's just take a minute to pause. um,
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Banter at the Bedside. Today, we have a fun episode. We actually have a hospital chaplain with us who is going to educate us a little bit on a special type of debrief known as the pause. This is new for some of us, or maybe we've done it and haven't actually heard it phrased as this actual
mhm,
term. So, we're going to be getting some education today. As always, this is for entertainment purposes. This is not medical advice. We don't represent any organization. And I'm Kaylee, if you haven't seen us before. And I have Abby with us, who's our other main co host.
Hey guys.
And then we have returning Cody, one of our recurring guests slash co hosts.
Yeah.
And then we have Linda. Linda, why don't you introduce yourself and
hello.
tell us a little bit about your job?
Thank you so much, Kaylee, and the rest of y'all. I'm excited to be a part of this. It's a chance to kind of talk more about what we do and also about the pause, which I'm very passionate about. But like you said, I am a chaplain. I am actually a board certified chaplain. And that means a board certified clinically trained chaplain. And I work in a trauma center. And as a board certified chaplain, we are actually just like you have RN and MP, MD. I have the credentials of BCC, board certified chaplain, and we go through pretty much 10 years of education, including residency, internship, and we all have master's degrees and um, 2,000 plus clinical hours that we are trained to do and be masters in after that. And also, we're trained in specialties in different areas of our work. I happen to be the chaplain that covers emergency services and trauma. I've been in this work, counting my internship, ooh, 15 years.
Wow.
And right, that's what I say some days. And I did my training at a trauma center and been in my current setting for 12 and a half years.
Wow. We are so excited to have you on.
Thank you.
A lot of people may not know that that resource is out there. We have hospital chaplains who are there
Mhm.
24/7. We have, one who's a Catholic priest. We have some
Yes.
that are, and they cover different areas, and they're a great resource for patients and families and even the staff, which is, I'm sure, what you're about to speak on. But I would like to say thank you for what you do because I know our job is hard and we see a lot, but I can only imagine that it's got to be hard on you. Um, Day in, day out, so
The
thank you very much.
yeah. The
I
journey is
appreciate that.
I'm sure you've
Mhm.
walked many a journey with many patients and their families, and I know seen you all respond when there's a code or there's a crisis, and just seeing you in those moments. It's always amazing, how, to me, you all are able to carry yourself, and I guess that comes with such an extensive training, which I knew there was some, but I
Mhm.
didn't realize how extensive, so I would love in another
Yeah.
episode, I think we'll definitely have to cover that journey deeper on what that all looks like.
Yeah, that's usually people get very surprised about that training and even more surprised about to keep our credentials 50 CEUs every year. Um, so it's definitely not. I tell folks we're not pastors and we're not ministers, but we're trained to be of support to all faith or no faith, and to be there in those distressing times. And as Kaylee said, yes, I'm very passionate about staff support in the midst of the crises. And thank you very much for recognizing our work. I appreciate that.
Okay, so you're gonna tell us a little bit about or a lot about pause.
Yeah.
uh, well, let's just take a minute to pause. um, sorry, I couldn't resist doing that.
No, I love
Uh,
it.
uh, the pause is literally a moment of silence. It we had a colleague had tagged me in a previous podcast of yours about the pause, and it's something I introduce when I talk to new nurses, when I talk to respiratory therapists. Just recently, I talked to medical students, M4 students about it, and residents. It takes place after you have a code event and it does not end the way that you had hoped. So once time of death is called, someone within that group, it can be anyone, just takes a moment of silence and say, okay, everyone, let's just have a moment of silence for Mr. Smith. And it's very intentional to recognize who the patient is, and especially families in the background. Family may be there watching the code event, but it's to recognize the moment of silence of to honor the patient and the work that they do, the honor the family, and also the honor the work that the staff did, the effort. Um, and I'm talking to the choir here when I say the effort that it takes to run a code event and the compressions and the medicines and the organized chaos of everybody in their right steps. And when you put in all of that work and it doesn't go the way you had hoped, the pause is something that can just settle things down before everyone has to run away. Um, and I'll break that down a little bit more, but it was actually started by Jonathan Bartels, who was a trauma nurse at UVA Medical Center in Charlottesville. If you Bartels and the pause, he actually has a website called thepause.me, and you can look it up for more specific information. There are actually TED Talk videos and YouTube videos about it. And it actually, believe it or not, if you have seen The Pit, it was done on The Pit in the first season and the first episode of the second season. And
Wow.
so I was quite impressed. I'm still a little concerned that they haven't brought the chaplain in yet, but that's a story from another time. Um, but with the pause, it's like I said, anyone can introduce it. If you're just bringing it into your facility, it's always helpful to have a leader do it. Maybe it is the doctor who ran the code, or the charge nurse, but it goes to that moment, and it doesn't take a lot. It's literally 45 seconds, including the introduction of lets everyone take a moment to pause. Again, you're recognizing the patient. We want to recognize Mr. Smith. We want to be able to honor his life. He was a father. He was a husband. If you even know that at this point in time, if it's in the ED, you know very little about the patient in that moment. If they're in the ICU, then you might know some more about them. And again, it's just honoring them in their life and also honoring them in their transition of death. And and then also honoring the work that you do. It's very helpful, I think, because we're so used to, and I'm sure y'all can speak on the codes that y'all have been a part of, but when I witness codes, as soon as time and death is called, everyone scatters. And
Mhm.
because you have a ton of other things to do, you've got other patients to
Mhm.
see, and sometimes the scattering is a protective mechanism as well. And but just that moment to settle the adrenaline down, to recognize the work and the effort that was put into it, because this is for the staff as much as it is for the patient and the family. Um, so that's a brief piece of what it is.
Okay. Are you guys, like, turning off all of the monitors so that it's silent? Because, like,
Hmm.
that might seem like a weird question, but
Mm-mm.
we have to physically go off and, like, physically turn off our monitors for them to stop alarming once somebody has passed away, like, if they're continuously in vFib systole or whatever. So there wouldn't be, like, silence unless we did that, which can take I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Don't you think, Cody? Like, go in there and hold it long enough for everything to boot off.
Mhm.
Is that done and, like, things turned off so that nothing's, like, being alarming before you start that?
Yeah, that's the hope. And of course, there's going to be the beeping and alarming of everything. And usually, how it takes place is that after time of death is called, um, probably giving a few seconds, then the doctor or whoever's in that room can say, okay, let's have a moment of silence. And if the monitors are going off, maybe that gives the cue to someone to turn the monitor off, and to just give it that moment to where it can be turned off. But that is a very good question, because I dare call it a sacred moment because it's not religious. There's no
Mhm.
amen, there's no prayer. It's for anyone who wants to be involved. So that having that few seconds of that moment of pause and gives you a chance to kind of turn off those monitors as well.
Yeah. I think I like I don't I was tearing up just listening to you. I don't know if it's how calm your voice is or Maybe I need to go to therapy again today. Um, but I think one of the things you kinda talked about was recognizing the work that the staff just put in,
Mhm,
and I think sometimes that's what I feel at the end of these moments is, like, I tell people a lot, like, I don't like to lose because every day I lose at
mm.
work. We always are
Wow.
battling death, and, so outside of work, I like to win because I don't always get a lot of wins at work, and so I always kind of feel that defeat, that letdown, that I've let them down,
Mhm,
and so I kind of have those emotions right after, and so when you said having that pause to
mhm.
recognize the patient in their life and also recognizing the staff and our effort, I think is really kind of what hit me. I don't know if that's what you've seen or experienced, but that's
I
just kind of what
yeah,
stood out to me.
and thank you for saying that, Abby. There is a lot of effort that is put into the work that is done for a code event, and each one is gonna be unique to everybody. It could be someone who's been in the ICU for a long time that you know, or it could be in the ED where it just happened that quickly, or the age obviously is a factor, the younger, older, or, if the code goes on a lot longer than it probably needed to go. But just like you said, you are trained to save lives,
Mhm.
and so you're
Yep.
gonna put every effort into doing what you need to do to help save this particular individual, and despite the efforts, you can't save every single life, and, um and that's when we are reminded that of what you had attempted to do, the efforts that you took, and I do see it, I think that's a part, and y'all might be able to help me a little bit more just from my point of view. I think that might be one of the reasons everyone scatters away. Um, there's many reasons, but I think that's one underlying reason of, "Okay, let me just cut that off and finish off and take a breath and go on to the next thing." But
Yeah. I think the scattering probably has for some people, a level of that, and I think you
mhm,
said it. I think there's a level of protection, especially if this was your patient or you knew them. Um, and I think that the other side is everyone's like, "Okay, well, I gotta go back, and I'm gonna close that emotion off."
mhm.
I like this idea of the pause. Do you find, or I don't know if you can answer this or not, but what is the cost of not doing the pause? What do you think that long-term cost is? Or for those of us that have never done it, do you think, like, do you know, have they talked about it? Or I guess what is the long term of teams that do the pause regularly?
I know there is research out there, and I know that they're starting to do, there's more articles written about taking that moment. There are articles written about, be sure you, I call this a part of the emotional debriefing just to kind of settle, going back to settling yourself down. I do think recognizing that you need to have that moment of pause is beneficial because if you don't, especially in cases where there might be that connection, um, it's going to turn into a burnout situation or a compassion fatigue situation. Or as if we don't recognize that we're human sometimes, from a staff point of view, it can bring out some of the symptoms of the burnout or fatigue about cynicism or isolation or irritability. I think just recognizing that moment helps us to remember we have a moment to where we can take care of ourselves. Um, and I think that would be more beneficial than not because those very people in that room with you in that moment are the only ones who will be able to understand what you just did. And if you scatter, no one else be able to understand what you're feeling if you're going down the hall or at the end of shift change and you're you're the person taking over for you. will obviously understand it to an extent, but they weren't there in the moment. And you've got however many people are in that room with you, and you've got this minute to where you all have this commonality and this connection for your efforts. And if it's not done, then sure, we can go on about our day. And I say that from my own personal experience too. I still have the family. I still have other situations that, especially if there aren't many of us there, I'm getting calls on the pager, and but if there's not a moment to recognize what we just encountered, the emotions are up and down, and having that moment, I believe, will honestly help you to release some of uh, that grief or sadness or anger, um, or self-deprecating or self-questioning of what could
Mhm.
I have done differently.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
I don't think I have thought about it until just now when you said it, that
Mhm,
no one else will understand that experience. And I think, each code is different, and we've had
mhm,
bad codes, long codes, codes, as you said, that went on too long, and errors in codes and all of that. And I've never thought of that. But yes, we all, to an extent, when you come on and you're like, oh, that was a bad code. Like, I get it. I've been in bad codes, but that specific code with that specific patient is still going to be a specific memory and a specific experience that no one else outside of
mhm,
those actually present will fully be able to understand. I think that's just such an interesting thing that I've never thought about until you just
mhm.
said it.
mhm, mhm,
And your senses will continue on. You'll still hear the person yelling out for epi, or there's a reason I'm not on the medical side of it. Doing the epi or saying 2 minutes out, time pulse check, and the different people that are yelling and screaming of what's going on. And you're still going to hear that for a while, despite our best efforts to kind of shut it down. And I do believe in even if it recognizes just the moment, even if it's not an emotional heavy impact. And for the other side of it, and we can still talk more about the emotional piece, it also helps those to recognize that that was a patient, that was a Mr. Smith,
Mhm. Yeah.
mhm,
and not just someone that they found who collapsed at the restaurant and ran in real quick, and you did everything, but you couldn't get them back. And to remember who that person was, and that they're not just a person that came into 43 overnight, or um, and that it helps you to remember that we are human, as are those patients. Um, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
No, it does. We actually have another episode where we fully talked about the how we can accidentally dehumanize patients in healthcare and ways we can not. And so it sounds like the pause also falls under those strategies of
Hmm.
this is how we can not dehumanize a patient. And it is easier when we sometimes, not that we don't recognize that they're human, we know that they're human, we want to take care of them, but it's sometimes a protective mechanism for us
Right.
too, of all that we just did. Like, if you sit back and think, man, I just sat there and crushed on some other person's ribs and broke
Hmm.
all of them, and I would never want that done to me, but I did it to them. That dehumanization part kind of helps make it okay, um, or
And
able to cope with it.
right.
mhm,
And to go back to something else that you picked up on, Abby, everyone in that room no, were a part of that same experience, including brand new staff that could very well be there. And this moment of pause they need to witness that and be a part of that, knowing that it's okay to have that pause. Um, and
Mhm.
it's the veterans who are saying it's okay. uh, Instead of saying, no, you got to move on, suck it up, do whatever you need to do. And so a person in that room from every moment of experience, from it being their very first code to the veteran um, who's recording everything to the one running it. So it impacts everyone on every level.
Mhm, mhm. I was just gonna say, it almost makes me feel bad because, like, the type of person, the type of nurse that I am, like, I feel like I show my compassion or, like, by doing, like, by getting things done or, like, doing things for you that you couldn't do for yourself by helping, and I feel like oftentimes at the end of a code, if the family is not in there, it's like I'm like, "Okay, let's get them cleaned up, like, take away enough stuff so that it's a little bit more peaceful in here so that the family
Mhm,
can get back at their time because they only get 2 hours with the patient, after they've passed." You know, a lot of times whoever runs the code will be like, "Good job, everybody. Thank you.
mhm.
And here, quick, sign this real quick, and then let's get all this done, like, in let's take, 5 minutes and get all this wrapped up so the family can come back." So it's like, I've never even thought about having a pause for that, even though, like, in my head, it's like, "Gosh, this person just died," you know? And and some of that is, like, you just don't have the luxury of time, but it does I love that you're saying it, but it does make me feel bad, like, if I've missed these opportunities to do that for the patient or for the staff, like, hundreds and hundreds of times, but I like it's a good perspective.
And, like, okay, the chaplain's coming out. You're fine, let go of that. Um, and
Yeah.
it's you do what you can do in the moment, and you're still providing the care by doing everything you can and clean up everything and to have the deceased presentable for the family. For the nurses and everyone, the care partners too, who take part in that, the pause kinda helps the adrenaline to slow down too. So you could be more intentional about and not have to rush. Um, the family, from the family point of view, I wouldn't want you to rush to do everything you can to help come to, because that's a part of their comfort and healing too, is to see that you took such good care of them. And it helps the person who needs to go and tell the family and talk to the family to help settle them down. And so that, I mean, every bit of it is a part of the caring. So you're doing fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of kinda what Kaylee said. I think we should not become, like, accustomed, especially on our unit, frequency of codes that we have
Okay.
and deaths. It's almost like second nature to us. I guess, like, we that's kinda why we don't take that moment to, like, just stop. We kinda are, like, in the mindset of get them prepared, they only have 2 hours, and then, "Alright, what's the next patient that needs to come?" With
Right.
that kind of mentality.
Mhm.
And it's not to be disrespectful, it's
Mm-mm.
just like we've all talked about, we do get desensitized or it's like, keep on and carry on like it's just our job, but as we know, over time and over the years, doing that without reflecting, it shows up, and it might show up at work or it might show up in your personal life or
Yes.
so that's why I think, we need to be aware of that and try to break that cycle if we can, by doing things like this. I mean, it seems so simple, but I've never heard about it, like, in this way, like
Right, and that's it. It's literally 45 seconds, um, and y'all can help me more on this, but as we build on not doing that moment or not taking a minute to step back and giving yourself a minute to settle things down or a mindfulness moment, if you want to call it that, or just it's going to show up in other ways. And I've had people even say to me, because I've experienced before, to where I've let things just process or just dig and dig and dig, and my colleagues will be the first one to say, "Why are you being so irritable today?" And I never noticed it. um, or I like to call it my GCS scale, my general compassion scale is a lot lower today than um,
Ah.
but it will creep up in some way, and
Mhm.
um, and I work with all new nurses. I do a compassion fatigue class for the new nurses, the new graduates when they come in every year, and um, I meet with them, they're probably halfway through their orientation, and some have experienced their first code, some haven't. Some have experienced their first cynical veteran who says, you can't be crying, you're not going to do well if you keep crying. Different things like that to not knowing how to even process it or talk about it. And um, so this kind of helps. And I challenge them. I say, you guys be the one to call the pause, because I tell them a little bit about the pause in that class, and that they can have the voice and be that voice for them.
I think that's
I
great because, yeah, I do think we're guilty of that as veteran nurses. It's not like, "Stop crying, like, get it together." It's just like, you're not gonna make it through the rest of your day. You can't figure out
mhm.
some way
Yeah.
to carry on, and, like, we have to deal with this later, but I don't think we do a good job of saying, like, "But you do need to deal with this
Hmm.
at another
Mhm.
time." Like, you can't just cry for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
It's hard, it's tough.
yes, yeah. On the humor side of things, I had a new nurse. There was a code event that did not end well, and this was before pause even came into my picture. And I wanted to check on her because it was her patient. And I came to check on her. She looked at me. She's like, don't come near me. I'm okay right now. If you come near me, I'm going to cry. Don't you dare come near me. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I just kind of stood behind the corner. I still watched her, but I just kind of, she's like, no, not right now.
Like,
So,
you're trying to keep it together, and then somebody's like, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "No, but I wasn't trying to
no.
just that acknowledge me. You just
Yes.
ignore me."
Yeah, that's me most of the time when people are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I was until you just asked.
Showed
Why
up.
are you showing me kindness?"
Ignore me.
I'm fine. I'm just fine. Just
Do you have any stories of when you saw the pause enacted or used, and then you could kind of see the effect, or you could kind of like this really works, and um, really kind of brought it in
Mhm.
and started kind of your education of it?
Yes. It was on one of the units I cover, and I won't mention the unit, but um, they are pros at compartmentalizing everything, and they're pros about moving on to the next thing, and doing like Kaylee said, just getting everything cleaned up and settled, and do everything that needs to be done so family can come back. Um, the doctor was the one that did the pause that day. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. I was the one that said it that day. And I said, let's just have a moment of silence, because I was really nervous about it. And because I know how they are with, needing to do this and this and this. And then we took that moment, and no monitors went off or anything, and just had that moment of silence. And then it was a little while later that that a couple of the veteran nurses, especially, and I'm not trying to pick on them, but pick on the veterans, but they're really good about moving on to the next thing and keeping things in control and doing what they need to do. They they looked at me and said, "Thank you so much for doing that. We needed to remember what we did, and who we were there for." So that was the first impact for me of, okay, all right. It wasn't a, Linda, why did you make us do that emotional thing? And so, it was because of course I get teased sometime about focusing on the emotional side of it. When I say, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm good. I was like, "No, really, how are you?" But
Yeah.
just that one moment of them recognizing that this i- this is a is this important, and it didn't take that long. But
Mhm.
just to have that moment really helped them. And so and I've seen it to where doctors who have come in from the outside, or fellows, first or second year fellows who learned it at their outside hospitals, have come in and done it, and the staff were impressed, and I was impressed. I even gave one. I said, "Oh, you get 10,000 points for doing that. Thank you so much." And they're like, "What are the points for?" I said, "You'll find out later. But just thank you." But the impact that you see on the staff and it's a lot more meaningful, even if it was just that minute and then they moved on. So I
Mhm.
have seen some good results from it.
I love that.
I was like, I've seen it once or twice where the family is present, and that helped them because they witnessed that, and that the team recognized efforts and recognized the patients. And so having that was very helpful and healing, and and very minor but simple piece for them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine for the family, it's nice,
Mhm.
peaceful to see that we are recognizing their loved one, um, and just taking that moment.
Just can't imagine a family member seeing your family member get coded.
Mm.
I think about that because we talk about doing things to people, and if you want us to save your life, then it's necessary, I guess. So traumatic what we do to people's bodies, and I if they die after all that, like, I just feel like it's in a lot of ways, it's not a very dignified death, like, it's not private, you're
Mhm.
semi-naked, your bones are broken, you've been stuck with
Yep.
needles and tubes stuck down, and
Right.
I I just feel for these families, even if that's what they think they wanted, like, as much as that affects us, like, that's gotta be
Mhm.
hard for them,
Mhm.
to witness, but
And thank you, Kaylee. I felt the same way too. When I first started, because I don't want that last image in a family member to see everything that you see in a code event, and seeing the punches on the chest and everything. But it's been through a part of the work that we do is actually research is a part of that. So I've been reading a lot of research on the impact of families seeing the code event, and it actually is more helpful than not. Yes, there's a visual impact, but there is also a visual impact of how much work and effort that the staff put into it. And and they see that you did do everything you could. And they also see what you did do.
Mhm.
um, and they can see that you did try everything you could, and they see what is happening to the patient despite your efforts. So I've come a long way from the beginning with that. And but that can be a discussion for another time, but
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's important for a couple different reasons, but yeah.
Mhm.
In terms of, like, the pause, is it only after a code event, or is it something that's encouraged even, like, if, they're comfort care or hospice care, as we call it?
Hmm. Um, I only know of it after a code event, and I know that
Mhm.
that was for Jonathan Bartels. That was the focus after a code event because of the adrenaline and the energy and the emotions. I've not seen or heard of it from a palliative or hospice standpoint, and I can understand that because you are more prepared for that,
Yeah.
and more than likely have already had moments, whether it's the family or whether it's the staff, as you do the comfort extubation. You're there with the family to support them, or when the decisions have been made to do comfort care. You have different pauses for, if you will, for them at
Mhm.
that time. But the focus here tends to be on the sudden onset of the code event, and the energy that it takes and the effort. And when it doesn't end well, that's why it's implemented.
Cody, you've worked at a number of hospitals. Have you seen this enacted or seen a different approach after a code event?
No, it's been pretty consistent. Like with every hospital, everyone just kind of scatters like ants after the time of death.
And it's not the first place. um, it's definitely not the first units, and it's taken. I've been trying to do this as a chaplain for a few years now, and still have not been able to get everyone to do it. And of course, I'm not going to get everyone to do it. I'm only one person, but just to
Mhm.
have it introduced, whether it's with new nurses or the fellows that are coming in or sharing it with y'all today, and just taking it out will be helpful. And I tease a little bit about the pit, but I mean, I text back and forth with a doctor who introduced it to the ED. So before I even came on board to the ED, I said, "Guess what? They showed it. They showed it." And I've seen more and more of that. So it takes time, and we're not used to taking that moment because you got to go in and do something else, and
Mhm.
but you also have to take care of you and too.
Yeah. I this is a question probably more for Cody and Kaylee, but that that moment of silence with the pause, I just think that's so abnormal in the ICU. How do you two think that would actually feel to do? Like, we actually take that moment. How would that feel as like nurses?
I mean, I'm in my healing era, so I'm about it. Like, I think we should be doing it. I'm just kidding. Um,
Yeah.
I'm heavy on the personal work right now. No. I think it might not, like, be weird. I think people might be surprised, but I think, honestly, that a lot of people would appreciate it, and I think maybe because when Cody and I work together, it's night shift. It's a lot of newer nurses, so I do think
Mhm.
that they might appreciate it. Maybe they don't even know.
Especially since the
It
newer
received well,
nurses
don't you?
to what?
Don't you think it would? I think it might go over well.
Yeah, because I feel like the newer generation of nurses, like, have dehumanized patients, like, early on in their
Hmm.
career. Whereas, like, I'm not saying, like, Kaylee and I have dehumanized patients, but we have kind of been able to put up that, I don't even know what the word is, kinda like a wall so we don't get so attached to a patient, so we don't get, like
Burned
So we
out.
don't get so burned out all the time.
Compassion
That
fatigue.
emotional
yeah.
weight.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think it would benefit tremendously on night shift. Or even, like, both shifts, but, like, our newer but our no most of our newer nurses are on.
I mean, I think that people might be shocked if I was like, "Hey, let's have a moment of silence," even though, like, if families are around during the code, if there's plenty of people there to run it, I'm very happy to go sit with them. Like, sometimes I'll just go stand with them or, like, offer to call the chaplain because we don't call our codes overhead, so they don't
Right,
know that we're having a code unless we call them.
right.
'Cause I feel like that's really tough, but, I think if the charge nurse or the person running the code were to do that, I think that it would be good and it would be fine, and maybe that would become more normal for people to see. If they kinda follow our lead, so, like, if we were doing it, I think that they would be like, "Oh."
Yeah,
Mhm.
'cause don't give me a minute to chill.
Ooh, we gotta get our heart rates down because 'cause we're old and we had to do chest compressions, like, "Yes,
I'm
please."
tired.
We do not. It's gonna be like, "Let's have a moment of silence with patient." Kinda even me like,
And you could
Cody's like,
take
"I'm
more
gonna
if you
be the
need to.
next patient." Yeah. Cody's
Moment of
gonna be
silence
sitting
for every
like
2
Maybe
minutes.
45 minutes.
it's like, "I'm gonna be sitting, really enjoying this moment of silence. I'm not sitting for my own personal benefit, I promise."
Has anyone seen Cody? No, he's taking a
Yeah.
moment of silence
"No,
over here off to the side.
he's fine. Good."
Well, it would definitely be me too over here because I'm top heavy.
You don't have to
So
worry about it. You run the codes. You don't have to do your job.
because I'm too top heavy for those.
Your job heavy.
As we're moving towards kind of closing this conversation, though, I think it sounds so simple. If someone does bring it up and someone says they don't have time, have you ever witnessed that? And two, w- as someone that probably has better words that work than the three of us to that response, what would you say in response to someone that says, I just don't have time for that 45 seconds?
Um, Good question. One thing that the nurse who brought this up, who started it, wants to make clear, it's not mandatory. If you need to walk away, you can walk away. It is literally just a moment of silence. And if someone does walk away, that's fine. In the case of, I would recommend following up with them and saying, hey, I'm just checking. Is there a reason not to force anything, obviously, but are you okay? Is there a reason that you couldn't do this? Or, because for me, it tends to be something underlying them as to why they couldn't do it. It's a moment of literally of silence. There's no prayer. There's no evangelism or religious talk of anything. It's open to everyone, and to keep it open to everyone, it's simply silence. And the only person talking is a person who introduced it. And then at the end, we'll say, okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. So I tend to go on the lines of if checking in with them and finding out what's underlying why they couldn't stand still for just those few seconds, and not do anything in the moment because that will take away. Um,
Mhm.
and if they say something out loud, that's something for them to process, and everyone else present will be a part of that. And just check on them later. So we
Yeah,
don't,
that
they never wanted it to make it mandatory, to make it uncomfortable or
mhm.
forced. And so I've not seen anybody um, leave a situation and they just bow their heads for a second or just stand still for a second.
Mhm. That's definitely more therapeutic than what I would have said, so I'm glad you have
Is
given me that script
it-
now.
Yeah, I can just
so, so,
Yeah, I would've been like, "Oh, you don't have 30 seconds for them? Okay."
okay.
You've been on the
Now,
phone for 2 hours.
Yeah. "You've been scrolling on TikTok, but sure."
now, do I want to say, okay, what's your problem? Yes. Do
it sounds like, a deflection, you know, something.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that people just don't sit in silence. Like, we don't sit in silence
We're not
ever,
good at it.
Mm-mm.
hardly. And, some people are just, well, let me rephrase what I was gonna say. Some people just don't have that sort of nature, so that's okay too. You
Yeah.
know,
And
we need everybody to
yes.
make the world go round.
I think the double-edged sword of the matter could be, like, as an ICU nurse, our minds never fully shut off.
Mm-mm.
So, during that 45 seconds, we would probably not be calming down and taking a moment. We're thinking of the 50,000 other things that we have to get done before our shift finishes because we've just spent there's 30 minutes, hours on
Mhm.
this one patient, and now we're behind on charting our other patient care. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it's 45 seconds is no time at all. It's nothing, but it's the will we actually be at peace during that 45 seconds and like let the adrenaline leave?
Now,
Yeah, that's a good point. We'd have to really try hard to just shut it down. It's tough.
I'm sure at
And
first it wouldn't, but if
I
you
mean,
keep
I'm not gonna be
practicing.
one of those people. I'm just
But even still, like, if you're physically having a moment of silence and you're just breathing, even if your mind is going, then at that point, at least you're doing it for the patient, and it's a moment of silence
that's
for the
true.
patient and their
That's
family, like you
perfect.
said. So, yes, it's for us, but if it's not gonna help us, then it's just a way to, honor that patient for a minute if we haven't had a chance to do that. So,
Mhm.
and make it about the patient until it gets to a point. Abby was getting ready to hit on it until there's that consistency and that they won't be shocked when somebody says, "Okay, let's have a moment of silence," and your brain may settle down some. I get it completely. I'm thinking a bunch of different things, but I
Mhm.
with the consistency and the practice of it, and just even just allowing yourself permission just to take a deep breath. um,
Yeah.
to do that.
I think if we did that more in our jobs and in our lives, taking a pause and taking a breath, would benefit a lot of us in
Mhm.
many situations.
Mhm.
I agree.
In the hospital and outside. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. What it's very simple. It's very simple. But outside of, like, just starting going in tomorrow and saying, "I'm going to do this," what's one way or one small step that you think people listening could take from this to move forward?
Good question. Giving yourself permission to take the deep breath or to even start it, let your leadership know, your nurse manager um or for let the attending know who's on that day, hey, can we try this? And I recognize the fact sometimes Kaylee said it earlier, if it's a person running the code or if it's a charge nurse, sometimes it needs to be that person to do it first, maybe. And just introduce the idea maybe at your next staff meeting, or unit council, that you can bring it up um, and just start that way and throw the idea out to some folks and see how it goes. And giving yourself permission and helping them to realize it's not that long, and it actually is
Mhm.
very meaningful and impactful. Just say, "Hey, give it a chance,
Yeah.
see how it is." Um, and if you want to bring in the research piece, I know quality. You've got the quality improvement awards, and you can definitely do research about once you've implemented it, and see how it goes and how morale is and how burnout might be and how it helps with patient care and family connections and how it helps the team. And you can do research and make the big posters and everything for that too.
Well, now you're speaking to my leadership
I
DNA.
Now
know.
I was
now
like,
it's like
I knew it.
I'm like,
this whole time I've been like, how could we implement this and study it though? Like
Yes.
how, and you just gave it to me. Guess what
You're
you
welcome.
guys are going to be doing?
Well, really, we should also start debriefing more. We don't do any
We should.
we
debriefs.
keep
Even if
saying that.
even
Yes.
if a code, God forbid, runs smooth, um,
Cody, that's not fair.
Do run smoothly.
huh?
Some of them do run smoothly.
We could at least like debrief like the good things that
Yes.
happen, what we could improve. And it doesn't need to be like singling people out, but we don't even like get praise when things are done good.
Yes. And this is different. This is a little different than a debrief, but the debriefing goes into improvements and into talking as a team, and being in a safe place where that's allowed. And don't blame anyone. Don't be too critical, and just learn from the mistakes and move on. And I think in a debrief setting, and you guys tell me from the medical side of things, it helps to acknowledge it. And then, because if you don't debrief, you're just going to harp on it,
Yeah.
I think, and just okay, I should have done this, and that's your voice the rest of the day. What could I have done differently?
Mhm.
Is my experience. Um,
Argue that if we start making this a part of our regular moments, the pause, and you bring that adrenaline down, then we would probably, at the end of that, we could be like,
mhm,
and in 45 minutes, we will have our debrief.
Yeah.
But
mhm,
I
Everybody
think
meet in this room. If you want to participate, we're going to do a debrief.
right.
so. If we can start making this small thing a regular practice, then
Yes.
maybe it will lead to a regular practice in the bigger moment of the debrief. Because
Yeah.
as we've said, our mind's running, we're scattering. What's next? What's next? What's next? And I think that's what gets in the way of our debriefs a lot. Is it's like, well, we all scatter, and now we all have this laundry list of things, and then getting the masses back together. So just going to be a double study.
Oh, there she goes.
It's formulating.
I'm here for it though. I mean, I really
Mhm,
am. I've been
Mhm.
in a couple of briefs, only a couple probably the whole time, and they were really nice.
Now,
Gotta make the
when
time to do
y'all
it.
when you do the debriefs, is there an emotional component to that too, or is it just the clinical side?
It was
I
the
think
clinical side,
Okay.
and both times the physician was running the debrief. Um, it was really helpful though.
Okay.
But we do have I remember a couple years ago when somebody put on the survey that, whatever they were struggling with, we're gonna do the code lavenders. We have code lavenders
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I think is it EAP, but does the chaplain help?
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
basically you can call a code lavender for the staff if something has gone bad, and they are just really struggling emotionally. So we have that. I don't know if we've done any, but
don't
that
y'all
was in
bring
response
pizza
to
or
like a survey.
something?
What'd you say, Cody?
What does the code lavender do? Like, don't they bring pizza or something? Like
I think it's
snacks?
through EAP, but some of the counselors, I don't know if they bring pizza, but like they
Somebody said
come
they
up
bring
to talk
pizza.
to the staff, like if they're struggling.
Yeah. So code lavender is something that's starting to kind of pop up throughout the country, and it's called
Mhm.
different things, but it's kind of like an emotional check or emotional wellness check on staff. A couple of different ways. I've called several code lavenders actually in the last year for our team. After a big loss of a patient or traumatic loss, um, bad code. they'll come up. Sometimes they bring kind of like wellness gifts, fidget toys, incense, actual lavender, things like that that can kind of help calm. But they also will bring the counselors or the therapists up, and they'll
Mhm.
do like they've done like emergency, like 15-minute on unit sessions with staff where they've pulled them into the break room and, okay, like, let's talk about this with someone outside who's calm.
That it's good if you have somebody who wasn't a part of that event to be the one to kinda lead you through that, if possible, to lead you through that debrief so everyone can take part, including, someone who may have been leading the debrief on another day.
Mhm. But they
So
do bring some snacks, but not pizza, Cody, sorry.
I'll
I
take a
believe
snack.
chocolate. I
I,
believe chocolate is involved. So
I'm
Chocolate,
not.
there is
Uh,
chocolate.
any
I'm
sort
not
of
picky.
snack or, like, a caffeinated beverage, you're gonna get people swarming in there even if they weren't even a
right?
part of it. So you could
Mhm.
really figure out like, in general, I think, like, nurses, we don't turn down coffee, like, for
Mm-mm.
snack
Mm-mm.
It's gonna be like that Mean Girls, like, everyone's in there for the debrief with all the snacks and everyone, and then they're like,
in the gym.
"They don't even go here.
Yeah.
They don't
Who's
even
that?
work on this unit."
Word
Why is
travels fast. Hey, there's there's free food, there's free drink. I just we're gonna start doing it. The next time I work
Yeah.
tonight,
Me too.
and it's a big ass blood moon, full moon, you know it's gonna be
Oh, yes. Yes.
popping.
Pray for
Just
you.
start doing it. We'll see if it might take a while for people to catch on, but I really think too, like the nurses and people in healthcare of my age who've been there for a long time, I don't think that many people are staying at the bedside as long, so that could be a component, but,
Mhm.
I've been doing it almost 20 years. So we've gone through these arcs, but now in, like, a lot of our society, like, we're getting into, like, wellness, and a lot of people are going to therapy, and we're becoming more in tune with our emotions and not just, shoving them down, so I think it might be a good time to start just with the way that things are going, honestly. I think
Mhm,
people will be more receptive to it than maybe they would have been 5 or 10 years ago.
Very much, and it take
mhm,
and folks like you guys to start doing it that will get other people on board, I think will be helpful too, and to say, "Hey, we need to do this. This is important for the patient, but it's important for us too," and to take ownership in that, and so I think that would be very helpful.
mhm. I'm sure if they were like, "Man, Abby's doing it, okay, I'll do it too." If Abby's getting in touch with her emotions, I guess I gotta do it.
There's some nurses out there that I'm trying to work with are like, "Oh, now she wants to be nice about it. Now she cares if we're sad." He was like, "Hey, look, you got 2 hours. 2 hours. There's a patient." And I
Mhm,
look, I'm sorry, okay? Sorry.
mhm, yeah. Well, any any final thoughts from anyone on the pause, debriefs? Any final parting words for us, Linda? Chaplain Linda?
But y'all made it to the top of my prayer list, so you get to stay on the prayer list. And
Yay.
I like to
Thank
do.
you. We need it.
We need it.
No, I'm humbled and very appreciative of the opportunity to talk with you guys. And um, I got tagged on the conversation with Dr. Jeff and that y'all had with him, and I know him well from when he was a baby, and a baby intern.
Aw.
And so, but to be able to be a part of this means a lot, and I appreciate it, and I thank you for the care that you have for your staff and the humor and for your patients and family. So, and for listening to the expertise of a chaplain. So, thank you for that too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
You're
Is
welcome.
this was I've learned so much, and like I said, I teared up at the as you were just starting, and so I really think we will start to implement this. But thank you so much for sharing, for reaching out, for doing what you do, and we hope to have you again. Um,
I would love it.
Everyone
Yeah.
listening, make sure you hit the like, the follow, leave a comment. Do you practice the pause at your work? If you have, what's it like? If you haven't, do you think you're going to? Let us know if you want. Chaplain Linda to come back and give us more strategies on implementing it. We're happy to have her. But from all of us shift talkers here at Banter at the Bedside, thanks and bye.
Bye.
Bye.